Welcome back, everybody. It's Crit Redundancy back again, the one known as CR. Hopefully, you guys and gals and the people out there are all doing well. Yeah, you heard that too. I had to turn that off. So, hopefully, everyone's doing well. As I reconnect with you all, the people out there of this planet, of this world. Share a few things, maybe a few stories along the way. As you can tell by this icon that I have on the screen and the thumbnail that I put for this specific live stream, you can tell that those are much different things. I have not even posted those things yet. So I figured I'd bring those two things in, the icon and the thumbnail in. It's something I made earlier. Trying to learn something by actually doing and not just watching, okay? Not just watching the YouTube videos or something like that, but actually getting my hands dirty, so to speak. What's up, Matthew? What's up, homie? What up, man? Yeah, the icon, both the icon and the thumbnail for this stream. The pictures are originally made or taken, as in like shot by me. They've just been altered with AI support in there. So that's why it looks very similar. Like this one right here, it looks very similar to my standard springtime icon. Slightly different. Was messing around with it, trying it out. Kind of cool. And it's a little bit more diversity, I guess. Now you want to go scoot around? Hey, well, you know what? I guess that's got CR in it. Yeah, we'll see. So right now, I just got the daydreaming music playing here on the StreamYard side, and I played it many times. So all this music that's available on StreamYard as background music is, at least by default, you know, safe to use, as they say, right? You don't get a copyright strike or a content ID claim, because I've ran this many times. I don't know. Am I? I don't know. So what has been up with me? Well, you might be able to tell just by the thumbnail that I put up. Is that's actually, well, it's based on the flower. Yeah, the flowers are actually coming up in my area right now. A lot more. Seeing some very colorful flowers. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them have a very nice smell to them too. Amongst the fields and fields of green that I see outside right now. Nothing but green. Especially green with blue water. It's actually been raining out west right now. And kinda, we're coming back into this, you know, if it was April, it'd be called April showers, but I guess more of a balance where there's days of heat, you know, let's say high 70s, low 80s, low to mid upper 20s in Celsius, but there's also been some rain every so often, which is nice, because also everyone's been aware that there's been a lot of forest fires out west here, and unfortunately there is some out east right now, so, you know, keep people in your thoughts, because those people are dealing with stuff too. It's probably not the greatest time. Besides, if we want these campfires over the summer, it's gotta rain. It's gotta rain. It's gotta rain. So that relationship between like fire and water. Oh, you think it's a lot cooler? Yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, cooler, maybe just below seasonal or close to seasonal. So, relatively speaking, it's probably more or less supposed to be like around this temperature, but maybe more sunny because it's cloudy out today. It just finished raining. The ground's starting to dry out a bit. I won't have to water anything, any gardening stuff, because obviously it just rained. So it'll help. Sorry, just taking a look outside. I saw something outside. So I've been working on a couple things here. For anyone that hasn't noticed, the rainbow video. That was just a couple of days ago, actually. I was done posted on the same day, but I decided to wait till the next day. Technically, it is actually still raining, so, but more or less thunder showers. I remember just looking outside the window real quick, and like my hands were just on the glass, on the mirror for a moment, right? Just looking out, and from there day, and all I heard was this thunder. I could just feel the vibration through the glass. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty close. Doing that standard, the time difference between seeing lightning and hearing thunder, stuff like that. I'm like 1,000, 2, 1,000, until you hear thunder, and the lower the time difference, the closer it is. So that's something that you could do anywhere, right? Anywhere here on the planet, it'll probably apply. Hey, Sandra! What's the noise? It's actually, this is called daydreaming. It's on the StreamYard side. For audio music, background music. It's just so I'm listening to something, and you guys can hear me if I take a breath. And it doesn't just sound like dead air the whole time. Oh, look at this. It's Forehaven. What's up, man? Hi, Sandy. Hopefully you're doing very well. Oh, maybe before Haven, maybe I should go get some socks on, right? Where did CR put those socks? No. Let me just walk into her room. Like I said for Haven, when I wear those socks, they'll be like putting on superpower, right? That's the idea, anyways. So when I wear them, I'll be like, I'll have the morale boosting effects of it. That's just the shelter elements of the socks. But of course, you're already aware of that. So yeah, before someone knocked my socks off with that comment there, let me just pin that on the little yeah, a little extra boost, right? Oh, exactly, right. So morale's how you make that a bit, right? Some people would pick up your morale, even though it may seem trivial at times. But my feet are wet, and my feet are wet. If my socks are wet and I need dry socks, yeah, I think that'll pick my morale a little bit. I'll be like, nothing like dry socks. I remember this one time I went to my buddy's place and my socks got soaked, right, from the rain. I'm like, oh, thank goodness I brought spare socks. Now, it actually, the rain stopped when I left, so it was like perfect. So I didn't have to walk per se, or, you know, moving wet. Hold on a sec. Hold on. Okay, sorry about that. You know what happens when you're live. Everyone always wants to call when you're live, but when I'm not live, it's like no one calls. But as soon as I hit the live button, it's just like, oh, Sierra's live. Let's call him right now. Let's interrupt him and derail him from his stream, usual. You finally got some rain? That's good. That's good. Hopefully they'll get some rain down in Nova Scotia, right? You know, for people that don't know where Halifax is. I've been hearing about stuff like that. But, yeah. It's not out west, it's out east, right? So, I know the heat's migrating out east more and more as the day goes on. If it's not already, well, it's already there already. I think I heard the other day down in GTA, Toronto, it was like 30 in Toronto. I was like, I've already seen 30 here already. And if you think about it, we're still in that kind of May, June time, right? Not technically summer yet, so we've already gotten a taste of the summer heat. But I'm just glad that we're getting a little bit more of that taste of, you know, spring rain. Just looking outside, I just see the robin on the grass. Just poking in the ground, trying to find a grub or something, or whatever it looks for. Birds are so adorable when they're walking across, they're like almost doing like a little bunny hop. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like boop 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 until they fly off real fast. Well, for even I think most people can say attest to that. Say that too, but we're taking that chance, right? I'm pretty sure we're not gonna see and that's still for a bit. Like I said, it's generally quite mild in Canada this year, relatively speaking. The last, I don't know, let's say 6 weeks since the second week of April. Because I've been seeing a lot of videos out there from Canadian people and some of my followers and people I follow, and I'm like, yeah, I look out and they're already, you know, there's grass, green stuff growing. Not that there's green stuff, but you know, like plants and stuff like that. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, like so they got a lot of green stuff and it's looking really nice out there. I know people are planting stuff like that. I'm assuming what I'm seeing in these videos is not on the same day, obviously. You know, it's probably like a week or two behind on that, what you would actually see if you actually saw other place. Because even the videos that I've been posting are a couple of weeks behind from when I recorded to when I actually posted it. So, because I've been recording a couple of videos in advance for the spring. So, got a few more in the works. So to speak. You'll eventually see them later on this week. Today is the 1st of June, and I just realized I've got to change the calendar over for May. I'm going to change the calendar over to Thursday, June 1st. I forgot about that. Change the calendar. I get this arrow. You know, it has the cartoon characters and stuff like that. It's kind of funny looking at it from month to month. Just when my buddies gifted me this calendar back in December, I'm like, okay, why not? I wouldn't buy it per se, but it's a nice gift. And besides, something I can look forward to. Let's see. Little chuckle here and there. So, I guess I'll show you guys something. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go bring it inside. One sec. Let me just go get it real quick here. It's sitting outside. Hopefully my Bluetooth holds connection holds up. I know I can hurry. Get the planner. It's still overcast. It's still cloudy out. The ground's drying out. Just getting this plan right here. I'll show you guys in a sec. Maybe you could segue to something else I have in mind anyways. Alright. Hey! you know what? You know what's hilariously funny? You guys want to see what? Let me just put my phone here. You guys want to see what's hilariously funny? I'm not even joking. And hopefully, I actually make sure. Camera. Yeah, thank you. You know what's hilariously funny? You know what's funny? That's what's funny. I like how you showed up, Sunflower, right when I'm showing that. It's like I had this introduction ready for you. You're gonna... I just have some popsicle sticks on the side here to kind of keep it straight. There was a slight bend in it. I don't know, I think it fell over or whatever, but just so to straighten it back out. It's a sunflower that grows straight usually does better. As I've been saying to my friend who grew some sunflowers, right? The wider you want the stalk on the sunflower, the stem part, you know, the connection from the roots to the leaves and the flower at the end and the seeds and all that. So you want it as wide as possible, so it's more what's the word I'm looking for? Stable and stuff like that. You know, less likely to crack under the pressure. So, like I said, I've had this not for that long. You can see the baby leaves right there, and it's only working on its second set of mature leaves or such. It's looking good, looking pretty healthy for now. Hopefully, I'll maintain that. I'm not sure where I'm actually gonna transplant that, but in time I'll figure it out. It was hilariously funny when for anyone that doesn't know, because I did a stream on the last week. What day was that? I can't remember. Is that Thursday or Friday? I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been Friday. Anyways, I was away for a little bit, right? And the funny thing is, when I left, the sunflower was still trying to shed its shell, or the seed shell, for example, right? And when I came back, it was already like developing, like just barely starting developing the second very leaves. Like, it already developed one set of mature leaves already. I'm like, what? Was that gone that long? It was... Sorry. Let me move this notifications on a different device. Just move that this side so you just don't have to hear that notification stuff all the time here. But yeah, I was just pleasantly surprised how fast that was. Because when I came back, it was like, not only did it remove the shell, yeah. But like I said, it was already developing leaf. It's looking pretty nice. I mean, I've had it outside, so it should be. I shouldn't have to harden it off anyways. If anything, just to the wind, for example. But it hasn't been that sunny out yet. But next couple of days it's supposed to be sunny, so hopefully I'll start seeing some more growth in it and stuff. So I'm learning about this gardening stuff by actually doing it, and I get my hands in the dirt, actually growing something. I guess you kind of enjoy growing stuff. It's almost like another form of creation for me. Because you're bringing something from like this little seed, and you're creating. Well, I shouldn't say creating, but you're developing it as it evolves into something more grand. This probably won't be the tallest sunflower I have. I'm pretty sure I've actually had taller sunflowers because I've been doing them in batches, so they've been staggered over every other week and such. So, but I'm not even sure where to plant this now. Oh yes. Let me just turn this down. Alright. I'll just swing this in here. Just like how water this can swing by. Yeah, I'm glad I'll have enough water for irrigation gardening type purposes for a while. So, and in the forecast it's supposed to rain again, so hence why I said we're what I call the more balance of heat, like 80 plus Fahrenheit, sunny, clear skies with other days with some cloud and some other days that have clouds and some rain. Just like how the plants need not just soil medium or the medium, but that relationship between, or the balance, I should say, between water and the air in the soil. You need both. You can't just have water in the soil. You need air in the soil too, or else the plants would drown. But they do need some air. But they do need water so they can have a drink and do that photosynthesis thing, which was kind of a little bit less today because, like I said, it was raining today, and mostly, if not mainly, cloudy for most of the day. I think I barely even saw the disk of the sun early this morning. I was looking out, I was like, yeah, I could just barely notice the little yellow circle on the south-facing side when I look out. So, what's up, Wes? How are you doing, man? Well, okay, well. Hey, you know what, Wes? I already saw hail here. I already saw pea-sized hail here. It lasted for about 30 seconds. Like, literally, it started to pour, and I'm just like, I thought it was just hard rain that I was seeing or hearing at first. I'm like, no, it's actually hailing. Pea-size. Very, very, very brief. Like, Not even enough to like warrant shooting a video, just because it was so fast and it melted right away. Like it wasn't even long enough where I could put it in my hand and show you everyone, or take a picture, or take a selfie with it. I'm like, it was so fast. Basically, then the rain took over. I'm like, okay. I mean, I had to check on my plants. I didn't see anything major, or anything I didn't notice before the rain, so I don't think the hail really did anything. Although the rain, I don't know. It caused a lot of the leaves to get dirt on them. And you're probably like, oh, it's just dirt on the leaves here. Well, yeah, maybe, but dirt on the leaves on the front side of the leaves facing the sun, well, that also blocks sunlight from hitting it. So I just kind of dusted it off real quick. So it's ready for like the next day of sunlight. Because I kind of figure if you're blocking, it's like having shade over the leaves. It blocks the photosynthesis from happening. So it looks like they're rebounding quite nicely. Some of my plants are actually growing quite well actually for the amount of time. I mean, we've just finished May, and I was just like, I feel like I'm kind of, I wouldn't say ahead of schedule, but not behind in terms of the gardening season. Like, but then again, the snow melted back into like almost the first week of April, so I've actually had plenty of time to do just more than just that spring prep work that I did back in that air video that I showed last month. Well, I can't even say last month because it's June, but back in April. That was a lot of glass. Hey, look who it is! Hi! Hi, Huga. How are you doing, CB? What up? Oh, well, you're doing well. Yeah. I imagine so, Wes. I mean, with all these daytime temperatures rising in the high 80s, low 90s, and so forth, right? Well, there's probably a lot more updraft, and then because there's more updraft, it can support more amounts of precipitation in the air and such. Because that's the reason why hail can get so big, because the updraft is so strong. It keeps it kind of up there, right? You know, and you wonder where did that come from, right? From the sky. Yeah, because the updrafts, because the heat rising, it keeps all that moisture off a little bit longer, and it starts to form bigger droplets or, you know, pieces of hail and stuff like that. I'm not using that word, but I'm not gonna use that word for the next 6 months. It'd be cool if I used it, but I don't want to say it. You know, frozen white rain. Yeah, let's say that here. Oh yeah. Well, I've already seen 90 here. Really close to it. Really close. I mean, we've been having low to high 50s overnight. I mean, sometimes it's below 50, let's say in the high 40s, but generally it's quite mild out west here in Canada, locally speaking, and it's next and it's rain too. Because apparently we're supposed to go for another couple more days of like, you know, high 80s, maybe low 90s, depending where you are in the country. Down south more, it might be in the low 90s, maybe even mid 90s. but up north more, it'd probably be in the high 80s, you know, ranging from like, you know, 25 to like probably 33 Celsius, give or take. So within that range. So, yeah, for anyone that hasn't seen this, I guess I'll show those again. See? Woo! No. Nice little sunflower that I have here. Good segue to a video that I'm doing later. Yes. I'm very bad for spoiling stuff. Yes. Just said that out loud, yes. That'll be for next week, though. You'll see something. That's why I decided to bring it in. I have another one growing. Like I said earlier, when I first brought this in and shown it, I don't know exactly where I'm gonna put it. Because I'm trying to gauge how long I can grow it in the container for the size of the container. Because I know the tap root or the root structure will probably start touching the bottom eventually of the container. But I'm just gauging the time, you know, week, 2 weeks, whatever it takes. After, let's say, after it's already shedded off that shell from sunflower itself, right? The shell part, right? When the sapling itself, like when after it's germinated. So I'm just trying to gauge that a little bit better. Just so for next year and the following years to come, and as this piece of knowledge, I'll be like, yes, it's about 2 weeks. You could probably keep it in the container before, give or take, before it probably needs to be transplanted because it's starting to not only touch the bottom of the container, but its roots, it's starting to, you know, wind itself around, right? And let me Alright, just also. Sorry. Got distracted there. I appreciate everyone that dropped by on those last couple videos I've been posting on some gardening stuff. All those videos are like weeks behind from from the time that I shot the video to the time that I posted the video. Because I actually had some other videos that I wanted to show first. But I figured I didn't even plan it that way, but it's like like 2 videos a week were on the same thing. It just happened to be like that. So, and this coming up week, or next week I should say, because it's near the end of the week, we'll also have 2 videos about the same thing, or very similar thing. Okay. Reading what you wrote there was okay. Let's see. Oh wow. Oh wow, West. Dang. Yeah, I mean, hail for me specifically here is generally only pea size at worst, or at best, or at worst, depending on how you want to see it. But you know, but the hard rain part is definitely one of those things I know will be very, very likely to happen in the season. Almost a given. Rarely do I actually see the hail, and if I do, sometimes it doesn't last that long. Although there has been times where I've seen the hail last long enough where it lingers around on the ground for a little bit before it melts away. Like, you can actually pick it up and actually make a snowball. Like, in the middle of the summer. So yeah, I'm assuming the root is on the sunflower is probably a couple inches down, maybe 3 inches down. I know it's not touching the bottom yet. Because that's what, I went to go visit some people, and there's people that I know and stuff like that. And just seeing, they're outside gardening, landscaping, doing some landscaping type of activities or whatever, right? Like trying to level out some bricks, transplanting or whatever, right? And I just talked to them for a little bit. I was like, ooh. And like, can I see a garden tour? They're like, yeah, okay, CR, yeah, come in, man. I'm just seeing what they have right now. Like, I'm no gardener, I do like the green plants though. I do. I wish I knew more of the names at times, amongst other things. But I'm slowly learning a little bit more each day. Specifically not just about names, but how to identify them. Certain plants that have certain characteristics. Like the shapes of the leaves and stuff like that. Are they pointed? Are they rounded? Like, sunflower leaves are generally rounded. There may be a tip, but usually you don't see that tip until like a little bit later. Because usually in the beginning, all the leaves are rounded. Like, I wouldn't say like a teardrop, but more like an egg shape. that kind of egg, that kind of shape, right? And I'm just like, well, anyways, I go inside and I'm just like seeing what they're growing, and they have, for the people, that have the little cups, the solo cups and stuff like that. I see that all the time. I've been growing I've started a few things in cups too. Been learning, like I said before, one of the things this year I've been trying to do is learn more about container gardening. Even if it's not fully container gardening all the way, because I'm transplanting it into the ground later, but technically it is, right? Because I have to keep it going in that container for a while until it's bigger or more established, or until the ground or the conditions outside are more favorable for the plant that I'm trying to plant out. And hopefully transplant it out when it's still relatively like nice and perky, right? Not leggy. Those leggy plants are always like you gotta work so much harder with, right? The ones that are nice and perky, you transplant it in the ground, like literally it just works itself, right? Usually they handle the transplant of transplanting it into the ground or a bigger container very, very easily. It's those leggy plants that are always more difficult because you gotta baby them a little bit more, maybe help them out a little bit, stake them, support their stem a little bit more until they grow nice and strong. Yes, I just said it like that. What's up, Chipper? See you, Ender. Yeah, I understand that. What? Yeah. If I saw that on a yearly schedule, I'd be like, yeah. I'd be doing what I can. That's for sure. Just gonna have some coffee here. Yeah. So usually I don't do these streams on a Thursday, because usually there's other people streaming. And I'm sorry for the people that I usually follow on a Thursday, and I'm not there this time, but I have my reasons for this. And besides, it gives me a chance to reconnect with some of you out there. And some of you I haven't seen drop by on my streams for a little bit. So it gives you the opportunity to join me for a little bit. Even if it's for a couple minutes, a couple seconds, or whatever. Or maybe for the whole time. That'd be nice too, right? Because lately I've been noticing, as I follow people here on the YouTube side, right? not just watching the videos, but actually, doing that whole click, 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 bell, 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 bell thing. And, like, I guess, one of these things, right? When you're clicking off and hitting right about click and changing that, right? As I've been doing that every so often, right? And, everyone can follow who they want to follow, right? All the time you see similar people on the chat, that's the side chat in the comment section. It's like, hey, this person I know has been here. I see. I didn't know they knew each other or something like that. But around that same kind of niche or genre, whatever it is, gardening, survivalism, whatever, right? Could be gaming or whatever, right? So, but what I've realized is that as I follow more people, I realize that everyone wants to go live all the time, right? So it's very, very hard to even pick a time that no one's even going live per se on your subscription feed. Very, very difficult. And sometimes some people don't have a set schedule, or maybe it's someone I haven't seen for a while, right? It's like, oh, hey, they're going live. Maybe it'd be nice if I drop in for a little bit of time and reconnect with them and, share a few things from my end, my point of view and stuff like that. And sometimes when I see people that haven't gone live for a while or whatever, it's just like, yeah, keep them company, right? It's always nice to have company on your live streams, right? It's much more difficult to actually have no one in the stream with you. It's much more difficult. But when you have people joining you, like some of the people that have joining me right now, it's kind of nice because bounce some ideas off of, say hi to the people out there, and it's like, what up? Let me have a sip of my coffee here. Guess I'll show you guys something else too. I actually have these grown. Now these are not in soil right now. Obviously, I figure I leak this in with 2 E's, by the way. No, just green onions. These I've actually tried these already, so these have grown back. This is at least the second time that I've had them growing, growing quite nicely. I mean, one of the things I have to do is like routinely change the water out. If it was in soil, I would just add water; it wouldn't matter so much. But I have to change the water out just to keep it fresh. Going for a little bit. So, but they're growing them quite nicely, actually. See, I actually, from this bundle of green onions I have, I actually took one of them and I actually planted it in soil. Yeah, exactly. I can see it outside right now. Although that one I actually haven't cut yet. I'm like, eventually, soon. Maybe I'll chop up some of the onions with an omelet or something like that to make another video, make another exciting video. Right, cracking their pine and all that stuff there. Eventually. But not the end of this week, it'll probably be for next week. Because it's almost that time. Besides, the days are still getting longer and the heat is still coming still. They'll probably grow back relatively quickly. So, let me ask everyone out there, since I've been talking about gardening stuff, how's your guys and gals gardening experience going along? How are you people doing with your garden? Is it doing well? I hope you're getting, like I said, that balance of not just sunlight, solar energy, the airflow, but water too, right? Rains too. Hopefully things are still growing through everything. It's still fun. And I know couple weeks back. Well, yeah, give or take a couple weeks back. Even here was hazy, right? So this amount of solar energy hitting the leaves and stuff like that was less in comparison if the skies were actually clear and sunny. Because during that time, I noticed the growth on stuff was still there. It was a lot less in comparison to the same amount of time, same amount of water, right? But with much more sunny skies. Because sunlight, green leaves, photosynthesis, create sugars that they use not just for the plants themselves, but to put in the ground for the microbes to interact with the microbes and the microorganisms in the ground, and that symbiotic type of relationship, right? And when all that stuff is happening and it is in balance, the plant does great, I think that's really, really great. Like, even if, let's say, your transplants are kind of laggy or whatever, right? Maybe they're kind of yellowish or really, really light green. Give it a little bit more time, and then maybe you'll turn more darker green, like broccoli green color, versus like lettuce type of green, depending on the plant, of course, right? Depending on the plant. Something like tomatoes, for example, right? For anyone that hasn't seen that video that I put out, now that was a short clip, 50 seconds. Because when I was transplanting it out, like, you're not supposed to transplant. You're supposed to avoid transplanting in the heat of the day, but I did this like at 10:30ish in the morning, so it was gonna get hotter, and I had to transplant them. They were just getting so laggy, and one of them was just flopping over, and that's the reason why I actually transplanted them out. And they were bunched up in a relatively small container for the amount of plants I had in there and for their size, because they weren't just little, like, just germinated a week ago. They've been there for a bit, right? So I'm like, yeah, I gotta do this. And those the leaves on them were, for people that haven't watched that video, right? Go take a look at it. You can see that the leaves are not as dark as they are now. So, like, I managed to get them to not only handle the transplant, they're kind of more thriving through it now and stuff like that. Because one of the things that I learned back in the 2021 season during the heat dome here in Canada is that mulch has a lot of benefits for tomatoes, especially tomatoes, right? Because they don't mind being mulch or having mulch around them and stuff like that. Especially considering that along the stem part, the stem or the central stem part, right? The little hairs that stick out, that those can grow into roots if they were under dirt and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, some of my tomato plants I'm already pruning. I mean, I've already pruned some of the bottom, right? So now there's a nice clear, let's say 2 to 3 inches clear spot, right? Get that airflow in there and stuff like that. Because I'm trying to grow them taller. They're actually, most of them, if not all of them, have already reached the first tier or bar of trellis. I'm just trying to get them going to the next tier and so forth, right? I mean, it's June right now, so I got the potential of 90 days, right? June, July, August. 90 plus days. So I think I wouldn't say ahead of the schedule, but making good progress in it. Crossing my fingers about everything else. Right? Hopefully, right? They've already handled at least the first hard rain. The mulch definitely helped. Especially that in 2021 when I had them, and I had the mulch down. It was, I wouldn't say really, really thick, but it was thick enough anyways. It was put like 35, let's say 35 Celsius, 95 Fahrenheit, right? My tomatoes were just doing great. I think it's not just because the water I added, not just because the sunlight, but I think it's because that mulch kind of kept the ground, the moisture in the ground a lot longer throughout the day. So the roots weren't per se drying out too fast or getting heated up too quickly. They were relatively cool, relatively speaking, to the in relationship to the in relation to the ambient air temperature at that time. So instead of being 35, 95, it's maybe 25, 75 Fahrenheit. A lot cooler. Because one of the things I've heard about is that, you know, tomatoes don't like, are less productive or less, grow less or something like that if the temperature gets beyond 27 Celsius, 80 Fahrenheit, 85 Fahrenheit, whatever along the lines of that. So being at like over 95 Fahrenheit, over 35 Celsius, and this was like days and days, right? But this was like in the height of like that summertime during 2021, right? And I was just like, well, this is convincing. This convinced me right away about it a lot more. Because basically, I could put my finger, do that finger moisture test that people kind of, you know, talk about in the gardening community and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh yeah, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't water since last night or whatever. Ground's still moist under there, right? So there's still moisture, water for the plant to use during the daytime. And of course, you know, with the photosynthesis and all that stuff. What up, Sunflower? Hi. How are you doing? How are you doing? It was kind of fun. Like I said, it's kind of funny how you showed up and I got back inside with the sunflower. I'm like, oh, that was good. That was a good segue right there. Like I said, the sunflower is actually sitting beside me. Actually, right beside my phone right now, just sitting there. And this is why I have this icon up on the screen right now. It's the newest icon I have for right here on the StreamYard side, right? But I like to have specific channel icons available for me to use, depending what I'm talking about, or depending what fits better in the conversation or on the panel or whatever. But this is the newest one I made. Like literally, I just made this like this morning. That's how new it is. I kind of like it. I was surprised I managed to keep the CR in there quite nicely, even though that's supposed to be like. Well, anyways, yeah. So yeah, eventually these green onions, I'll have to change the water out. Also, I have to double. I don't know if they was changed today. I'll change the water tomorrow in the morning. It'll be like my routine now. I'll be like, wake up, make the coffee, change the water, and the green onions for the green onions, right? Go outside, bring a couple plants back outside again. You know, check on stuff out in the garden and stuff like that. Like, don't get me wrong, I've had my own mishaps this year already, a few times already. And surprisingly enough, it was all with the sunflowers. Like, I planted sunflowers twice. Well, okay, let's rewind that. What I meant to say was, I planted one, it started to germinate, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's doing well. It's like, you know, it's developing its secondary leaves, or, you know, away from the baby leaves, right? And then the next day is just like on the ground, bent and broken. I'm like, how this happen? And right the next morning, right? I'm like, well, there's no going back. There's no saving it, right? Because the stem's totally broken, right? Once you break the stem off these plants, it's pretty much done. Pretty much, right? So I planted another one. Waited that 7 days, whatever it takes to germinate and all that stuff. It's starting to sprout its true leaves again on the second batch of a second time at it in the same spot. And the next morning, again, it was broken. I was just like, son of a gun. Like, something must be, maybe it was the birds or something like that pecked me on it or landed on it. I'm like, so this time around, I decided not to use that spot because clearly it wasn't very, it was happening. So I planted some other ones a couple feet away from that spot instead. So stuff like that has been happening. And of course, for anyone that hasn't seen that other video where I posted, it's very short where that's so awesome. That's what I need labeled it, right? SOW, right? But yeah, I still don't know exactly the cause of it, but I think I have a couple of ideas. But like I said in that video, that was from the same batch that I started. I started that batch as a set of 4. I was just like, well, at least 3 of them made it. So that's still not 100%, but better than 0. So I'll take that. I'm not sure exactly. Maybe I know some people said about fungal disease or whatever. I'm almost thinking maybe I gave it too much light or whatever. Like I heard about stuff like, oh, you can just put it back in that, shelter it, give it some shade and stuff like that. It might come back. I tried for like 2 days. It was just getting worse and worse every time. It's like falling down. Very, very extremely laggy. The leaves were even some of the dark leaves that I still had on were turning more later green to yellowish green. I was just like, I cut my losses on that one. But like I said in that video, this is why you grow more than just one, right? That 2 is 1, 1 is none. I guess 3 is 2 and 4 is more. I just made that last 2 up. So, yeah. Speaking of my coffee, yes. So, reusing the grounds. Alright? Reusing the coffee grounds. I'm just letting the coffee grounds dry out, increasing the surface area and just shaking it a little here. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I like to do this anyways. I mean, even if you didn't have a compost pile or something like that, just do that chop and drop, right? Or in this case, I just broadcast it out. Alright. The only reason why I like to have it in more dry state is because it's easier to handle, it's less clumpy, it's easier to broadcast or spread it out, and it's easier to store. For example, so. And some of these coffee grounds I have are just from like yesterday, and some of this is actually from today already, so I'll probably be able to sprinkle that out there soon. Add some fertility to the soil. Obviously, this is probably not that help me this year per se, but probably for next year. It'll probably be for next year, right? Like I said in the spring prep video, the stuff I'm adding this year is for next year. The stuff I added last spring, the 2022 spring-fall season, it's probably helping me now. I'm pretty sure, especially at the size as it was, it's probably broken down quite a bit. Where it's slowly releasing the nutrients back into the ground, right? especially as, the mycelium, the fungi, the microbes, the protozoa, the bacteria break it all down. The bugs, the insects, the worms, and all that stuff. Move it around the dirt, around the soil, around the garden, right? And stuff like that. And I'm talking about like stuff like the coffee grounds, for example, maybe some peelings, stuff like that. So, yes. So, I do have this airplane here. It looked better when I first got it. It's actually a lily. Although the leaves, the flowers are kind of drying out on it. I mean, it's in a container, right? So, in terms of container gardening, I'm not doing so well on that one. It doesn't look that great, to be honest. It really doesn't, actually. Here, let me just bring it over here. Bring it over to my camera here a little more. I think I need to put it on the ground here. Yeah. Yeah, see? It's seen better days. It's seen better days. I'm trying to keep the lily flowers going for what? For a longer period of time. I seem to either have them dry out or the scarlet lily beetle, especially if I have it outside, attacking it. I've shown the scarlet lily beetle, red beetle before. It looks the same size as a ladybug. It actually can fly like a ladybug, but it's more like a crimson red versus that polka dot with red, black polka dot with red like a ladybug. And it I shouldn't say attacks, but it uses the lily as a host, right? And feeds on the leaves or the flower, lays its eggs in there and stuff like that. Now this year, I'm hoping I don't have that issue. Now last year, the last 2 years, I haven't had a big issue with the scarlet lily beetle. This year, I've seen one from every time I take a look at it and stuff like that. It was one of the first plants for me to, well, usually it is the first plant for me because the way that it faces itself and stuff like that. Usually it's the first thing to start getting green and getting bigger inside for me. I mean, there were mine are, I can almost look outside the window and see them. Almost. I mean, they're probably, above your knee, give or take, right? They're over a foot tall, at least. So, can't wait for them to flower. They'll look really nice once they actually do. So there's this other thing I've been working on for a little bit, where, let's just say, I'm trying to try something out, even in a small scale, in terms of gardening. So I'm hoping it'll work. I'll have to see. Hopefully, apply some of that knowledge out there. I'm actually trying to apply some of these concepts from the permaculture community, right? Permanent agriculture community, right? One of the things. I mean, I've done the chop and drop stuff, right? But there's some other concept that I want to try it out, even at a small scale, just to see. Maybe it will help. I'll have to wait and see, pun intended, for it, but we'll see. Because I mean, like, if I start noticing it more and more, I'll be like, well, maybe it is working, right? I mean, also, I don't have a control, so I can't verify it all the way, but because it could be just coincidence or whatever, right? I'm hoping that it will actually turn out well for me, especially since I'm able to irrigate with some rainwater and stuff like that. Use rainwater for watering purposes and stuff like that. So I guess we'll see how that all turns out. Because I've actually been watching permaculture type of videos lately. Like, usually permaculture type videos are like usually on a grander scale or a bigger scale, but can these things even apply on a smaller scale? I mean, people, I'm trying these out. Because also, there's certain things you can't do on a small scale, but, or even on a medium scale. But there's some things like the chop and drop that you could do, for example, right? So something I've been trying to do. We'll see if it actually pays off, but this is why I'm doing it, so I can learn from it, right? And not just watch the videos out there on the YouTube side or whatever, go search for it here on YouTube or Google it or whatever, right? But actually, try to apply some of that knowledge or information I'm gaining to what I have in front of me, regardless if it's here where I am or maybe through someone else's place. Friends, family, whatever, right? And trying to work with the overall natural system of the garden for what it is, right? For what it is. So that's one thing. It feels like I'm coming back to this one thing that I and I say kinda did when I was much younger, so it feels like I'm kind of dipping back into that again. I wish I did it more when I was younger, but well, I'm doing it now at least, right? Better late than never, right? So learning by doing it and not just watching the videos or working on some forums or searching for it. Don't get me wrong, I still do that, but I realize that's just information, right? Information needs to be not just utilized but applied. Because when you apply knowledge, information, you get through observation and all that other stuff, you get a sense of it better, right? Where you can actually make connections and just like, oh, this is actually helping. It's like, oh, I added a mulch, and now, I also water, but I don't have to water as much, right? Because I know the water's gonna get held into the ground a little bit longer compared to bare soil, because the ground's covered. And when I was thinking about it, I'm like, well, that makes sense, because usually the dirt is darker in color compared to the mulch. I say usually, but obviously there's dark colored mulches too. But so sunlight, when it heat, the surface will heat up less because it's a light colored mulch, for example, whatever it is, right? And then even if it's a dark color mulch, right? So you don't get that effect that happening as much. Well, because the little air pockets underneath, right? Because there's a little air pocket, so air can still get in there, right? So and stuff like that. But it also almost insulates it, right? It's almost like having dead airspace in the wintertime, for example. I can't believe I mentioned that, but and that keeps the dead airspace, so the heat doesn't transmit from hot to cold. And that same reason, using that dead air space or trapped air, so the heat from the sun doesn't bake the ground as fast. Therefore, the evaporation rate is a lot less. I mean, usually I'm not worried about water, but I mean, some places, they're quote unquote religious about mulch because it's more arid, desert type environment and stuff like that, where water is a very valuable resource. Oh, what's up? What's up? I know who you are. Of course I know. Really? Oh, I'll just pause the daydreaming here. I think I should have did, 'cause I'm not pre-listening to this. Actually, I could run another device here. I didn't think it was acting up. Like I said, my audience has to mention it to me, by the way, here. Let's load up another device here real quick. So you might hear a slight reverb or echo, but I'm just actually let me just load this up right here. Let's see. Hold on. Hold on here. See, I actually have it playing on separate device. As long as I can make out what I'm saying, it's still good, right? That's why I try to project as much as possible, right? It's actually the last two times I've been streaming, I actually haven't used StreamYard, so I've been using Prism, and I actually used Prism the last two times, so. Yeah, no, you know what? I can hear myself on it. Sounds fine. I can make out what I'm saying. You can hear it. Yeah, I can make out. So, I mean, it doesn't sound great, but it doesn't sound awful. I don't know because I don't hear it. I have a separate device playing the stream. I can still make out what I'm saying. Hold on, let me just turn that down. So there's not much of an echo here. Like I said, I have a separate device playing it just to check on it. Oh, I see. I see how you want to ignite the chat here. Remotely. did I just mention that? Did I just say that? Yeah. Okay. We're getting. anyways, that'll be for another video. I guess I can tell how much of a delay I have. It's at least 10 seconds. But yeah. So coming back to what I was saying about the gardening stuff, it's just if you take anything from this, just go do it. Even if you think you don't have a green thumb, you can always develop it. Just because you're not born naturally, where it's like very comes naturally, as they say it, right? Some people have to work at it, right? Some things don't come naturally to people. People have to actually work at it, right? If it's not gardening, it's editing. If it's not editing, it's everything's like fixing things, repairing things, or I guess gaming would be a thing too, right? Sometimes you're gonna practice at it, right? In gaming terms or whatever, some people practice, right? You know, these tournaments, like for sports events or whatever, these tournaments and stuff like that, right? I'm not talking about professional playoff time, but stuff like this or tournaments or stuff like that. People practice. They're practicing these movements. I guess in terms of gaming, right? Where they're like, I got to do this and trying to sync it and the timing of it, right? Likewise, in gardening, you got to practice too, right? Don't just grow one seed. grow a few more extra, right? Usually the seed package comes with like enough seeds, right? You know, and if you're storing your own seeds or collecting your own seeds, well, you might have extra to try out, right? Where you're like, hey, you know what? I'll get containers. I'll grow some extra sunflowers and practice the transplanting of them, right? Where you get more proficient at it because you're actually not just doing it, but you're actually doing it and doing it more often. So, you're getting your hands dirty, so to speak, gardening, and you get a little bit more experience with it because, each transplant might be slightly different, right? Slightly different. The plant might be slightly bigger, slightly smaller. Maybe, oh, here's a leggy one. Okay, let's see what I can do. Maybe I can still get it to go, right? Realizing that, hey, okay. Yeah, yeah, something like that. Okay, but yeah, I mean, just go do it. I mean, like I've seen people, every single time, and I seriously do mean this, like almost like 100%. Actually, times 1,000. What am I saying? Not 100-fold, 1,000-fold. When I see people learning something new, getting experience with it, knowledge of it, because they're doing it. So not just watching video, not just getting tips from someone else or whatever that maybe I give them or someone else gives them or so the teacher says, right? But they're learning it as a student and they're getting better at. Well, it also makes me want to up my A game too. It's just like I figured, oh wait, if you can do this, I can do this. You know, if you're learning about gardening, I'm trying to up my gardening game a little bit more. And try something new too. I mean, even this year, I'm trying something new. Even one of my buddies who really isn't a gardener, right? I mean, they can dig a hole at the transplant. They understand about watering and watering also. But sorry, I just lost my thought. But even they've been trying out something new. they they told me back in April when they first started start to seed and germinate them, right? About something, and they told me the other day when I was talking to them, it's like, I think I'm gonna have to start watching videos, CR. Why? Because they're starting to grow these plants that they're trying to try out, and which a lot of the channels I follow don't actually grow it, or as far as I know, maybe one or two or a few, right? In comparison to something more popular or more widely grown, like tomatoes, for example, right? So I was just like, yeah, I don't know how to grow those, or I don't have any experience with it or knowledge behind with it, and I would have to research it too, and go through the process of researching it, seeing it on video first, and kind of making that connection with that and what I see in the real world with the plants in front of me, right? That I can touch, smell, and see, and all that stuff, right? Like I know there's variations and varieties, but some things hold true regardless of the variety, right? It's just like tomatoes, right? So a lot of the stuff you do, for the most part, doesn't really matter if it's a determined or indeterminate tomato. You can still do it, right? Like the watering, for example, or mulch, right? For example, that you may want to put in. That's help. That's help. So, because some things, like I said, are learned by doing, and you know, not just having that supposedly information or knowledge up in head, but you're redirect. I shouldn't say redirecting it, but kind of you're focusing it, almost like a big giant solar array, right? You're gathering it together and focusing it like a solar array or a solar beam, not solar beam, like solar ignition with like I forgot what or magnifying glass, right? And focusing it back into something, right? I hope that makes sense. I'm trying to use some analogies in here every so often. Hopefully it makes sense, but I'm just focusing. I can focus over these thingies that I have for notifications, but just take the double screen here. But yeah, like I said, seeing one of my friends up their game a bit and try something new, I was like, yeah, I'm trying something new too, right? I'm hoping to at least get to some. I mean, there's still time. I still got about 90 days, but it's still real. You know, a little smaller compared to other people's plants of the same plant family. I'm working on it, but like I said, it's more like an experiment or something to try out, right? I'm hoping it will pay off. I'm learning more about it by actually doing it. You know, oh, this takes a little bit longer to grow for me compared to some other things I've grown, right? Where it makes, you know, it makes the sunflower look like a rabbit compared to when I'm growing because it looks like a tortoise, right? Where it's so much slower and stuff like that. I mean, I give it water and stuff like that. Honestly, every so depending on what it is and how often, what state is for the plant, maybe I add in some compost, some fertilizer, just to kind of give it a little boost. I just wanted to say it like that. Wait, check my timer. I gotta check my timer. Okay, it's almost 90 minutes. Oh, welcome in. Hey, Tina. How are you doing? It's nice to see you again, Tina. It's nice to see you over there on that air chat, by the way. Oh, yeah. Actually, I keep forgetting that was yesterday. Where did the time go by? It's only been like 24 hours. It's nice to see you again, by the way, Tina. Hopefully you're doing well. So, yeah. So, yeah, maybe. I mean, is it too late to start gardening? Maybe not yet. The window of opportunity for this year is winding down, but because you won't have enough time in terms of growing days left, especially here in Canada. But you know, I understand some people have to put it on the back burner, but still time. Still time. I mean, still, because again, the time to learn how to garden is today, not tomorrow, not the next day. And just because you got the seeds doesn't mean you can get them to grow. Because I've had dud seeds before, or mishaps with seeds, like I said earlier. I mean, like even just after the germination, I got the true leaves on this sunflower. Next day, it's just like, oh, it's bent and it's broken. Dang those birds, or whatever, right? So stuff like that would happen, right? I just chalk it up to like bad luck, right? Doesn't break my morale in terms of gardening, because in spite of that happening, I've had many other things that are very, very successful right now. That are doing very, very well, very green, pretty big for its size, for how long I've been growing it for. Let's just say after the time of germination, after it's popped out of the ground, a month. No, some of them have been out for a month. I was like, oh yeah, this is pretty big for a month, right? Or 30 days. And it's the beginning of June now, right? So there's still, give or take, at least 90 days, good 90 days, give or take, of good growing time left, or growing season left, right? For most people. If you live down south more on on a higher growing zone, right? A little bit longer, right? A little bit less if you in the lower zones, right? Lower zones, growing zones, I should say. So, so, and if you're growing something, if you're successful at it, keep going with it, right? Build upon that, right? Build upon that success, right? And propagate it. And feel free to propagate that lake while you're at it. I would appreciate that too. I do appreciate that too. And of course, I appreciate all you folks joining me this evening. I appreciate it too. You guys are keeping me entertained and going here. So I'll probably go, depending how I feel like, for another half an hour-ish. I'll probably try to stretch it to the 2-hour mark. Well, hold on a sec. It's always that thing that always happens. Someone always likes to call me when I'm streaming. All the time. All the time. And I can't just not answer it because it could be important, right? And I don't want to be some a-hole. I'd be like, sorry, I didn't answer the phone because I was streaming. That would be a very move on my partner, right? Right. And that'd be just selfish anyway. So, yes. So, yeah. This weekend here, let's see, it's Thursday at the time of this live stream / replay. Shout out to the replay gang. If you're following me still on the replay at this time, I appreciate it. Or maybe you're still catching up on the catching up a little, slightly behind from the live. So good. Appreciate it still. Right. I know I got some people working in the background and all that stuff. It's all good. It's all good now. Even if you just quickly say hi, acknowledgement means a lot, right? Well, I should say I would acknowledge you, and stuff like that. I said know who I'm chatting to. Also, I'm just chatting in the middle of the air, right? Because I don't have a battle or whatever, right? I mean, but that interaction, right? Because it's nice to reconnect with people. And apparently get notifications every 5 minutes here, 5 seconds here. So, yeah. Oh, where did I put it? Actually, is it right? I keep forgetting. Someone actually. Oh yeah, they're right here. Someone actually gifted me. Well, as a gift, anyways. These basil seeds, right? As a herb. Have I grown this? No. Personally, no. I know a lot of people have, right? It says 35 days or whatever. It's about. Oh no, that's the plant spacing. I think. Supposedly these are heirloom. Okay. Supposedly these take 7 to 14 days to germinate. Seed depth 3 millimeters, 8 of an inch, and such and such. I mean, I may try this. I think I need to look at some videos just to see the life cycle a bit more, so I can relate to it when I actually see it in the real world here. If I grew these or started these, right? Because this might be a good. I might actually try this now that I think about it a little bit more. I just received this the other day. Plan to brick or start indoors 6 to 8 weeks before password. Because I want to see if I can actually grow this, not directly sow them into the ground, but can I actually start them as as a container in a container garden, or put them in as a plant in a container. I think I would need to look this up to see how big these actually can get. See if I even have a container that can fit it properly and stuff like that. It'd be nice. It'd be nice to know that, hey, I actually can do this, right? And hopefully, propagate it more or get the seeds, for example, if possible, for that season, and hopefully not just go from seed to flower to fruit, but get seeds again and return that back into that circle of life, that life cycle, right? And see the whole circle, the whole picture, the whole piece of the pie, whole pie of it, right? Where I've seen not just what it looks like as a seed, right? Which, if I open them up, I won't do that right now, but or I've seen the seeds, seen it germinate, seen the baby leaves, seen what the mature leaves look like, see how it looks, how fast or how it branches out when it's in that kind of growth stage, right? Before it's real mature state, right? See it in its mature state, and see it when I'm harvesting flower and get the flowers, fruit, whatever, right? Stuff like that, and hopefully see it again from the beginning, because that way I actually seen the whole thing. So just I've heard this term how around the gardening community and such, right? Oh, I have some volunteer plants, right? It would be nice to know that, hey, this volunteer plant that I had no idea what it was originally because I didn't know what I started it as seed or like wintered over or whatever, right? It would be nice. Oh, I think it's this because it has the leaf characteristics look like this type of plant, for example, right? Because then I can add that into the knowledge bank up here in my head and be like, oh, right, and make connections with the plants, both in terms of knowledge and by actually doing it, getting my hands dirty, relatively speaking. Okay, I'll wait for this. I'll probably look this up a little bit more just to see. It says start seeds anytime for indoor use. Yeah. Well, like I said, maybe I can grow these as in the container, because I need to actually see this as a whole, understand it better. How deep the roots get, how widespread the roots get, how big the leaves get, and all this other stuff, right? Because some of this other stuff I've been doing it for a little bit, which I've seen the whole life cycle of it, right? From seed to germination to growth to maturity to flower / fruiting, then back to seed again, right? So I've seen that whole life cycle, so I can actually properly identify it, know what state it's in, right? Oh, maybe this is kind of lame, or oh, this is doing great. This is doing great. Not just because the leaves are really dark green, but oh, but the stem is on this plant is just getting wider and wider. That means it's just like if you picture a stem, because I always related or used the analogy of a straw or a pencil or whatever, right? Because the wider the channel is or the straws, the more water, quote unquote, not quote unquote, but basically water, nutrients and stuff like that can be channeled through that, versus a narrow stem or a narrow straw, if that makes any sense. It's just like a river, right? The wider the river is, the more water can flow through it, versus a very narrow stream or narrow river that only can allow so much water to go through, for example. So this is why I'm always looking at not just the leaves, but how thick the stem is getting on the plant. Because I realize, like I said, if the stem is getting wider, and I can actually really notice it a lot more over days or weeks or whatever, a couple days, 6, 7 days, whatever, right? I'll be like, well, it must be doing well because I've realized that, like I said, if the stem increases in size, it can draw a lot more because there's more surface area. It's just like a wider straw or wider river. More can flow through it, for example. Or it's thicker, like, I guess in terms of electricity or whatever, right? Thicker gauge wire or something like that. More current can go through it, right? There's a CR word right there. I should really currently use more often. See how I just did that right there? Yeah, I'm just reading this right here. The seed package on the back kind of deal, right? Then quote unquote instructions, right? Plants require an organically rich, well-drained soil. Okay, so I have to keep that in mind. Alright. So obviously, I probably don't want to, per se, quote unquote, overwater it. See, it says expect your first harvest 5 to 6 weeks after sowing, or putting it in the ground or in soil or whatever, right? Probably after germination. So if I started it today, I might be able to get a few out of it. So I don't know. I'll have to see. I think I'll probably do more research just to find out some more information. Because one of the things is, like, if you haven't seen the life cycle of it, you actually don't. Excuse me. You actually don't know because you never seen it. Now, let's just say you look at videos, like, and I do too, right? Like anyone else or pictures or look it up online, right? But you seeing those videos or pictures, you need to connect it with what you see in the real world with your own plants, right? And make that connection where it's like tomato plants or whatever, right? Oh, this is the stem. There's little hairs that stick out and stuff like that. The leaf shape and stuff like that, the structure of the leaf and stuff like that, or as it, like, for example, sunflowers usually make pairs of leaves, right? Pairs and alternate between perpendicular angles, right? Perpendicular lines, right? Give or take. Something like tomatoes, are like more like, I wouldn't say a fork, but or a triangle, or but well, you get my point, pun intended. So stuff like that, you start to notice a little bit more, right? And it becomes more ingrained into you because you've seen it. So not only are you handling it, so you're touching it, you might be able to smell it, you're seeing it, and you're making quantitative measurements, right, to it, right, for like a shape or whatever, how to relate to it, and then because of that, you start developing that quote unquote gardening skill, right? Because you're increasing the knowledge of it, right? And the skill will come in time because you gain experience by actually doing it, right? For example, nothing wrong with buying starters, but you also don't see the beginning of it. So if you don't have time or whatever, I get it, right? Or if someone gives you something, all right? It happens. I've received plants that I've never grown before, and they very in their kind of adolescent type of state or whatever, right before it's full form maturity and stuff like that. And just get a message, but you don't see that one little part. So if you grew it from seed, you'd be like, "Is it growing?" It's like, "Oh, I didn't realize the baby leaves look like that," or whatever, right? Then you start to see the mature leaves you've already seen and develop, and it's like, "Oh," right? And especially as as a content creator, if you're recording for content for your followers and stuff like that, right? So you get to see it too. Especially when you're editing it and replaying it and referring it to someone else or whatever, right? I mean, I have a friend that I actually gave some sunflower seeds to, and they're actually starting to grow. I actually haven't seen them yet. I actually should go over there one of these days, probably, if not tomorrow or this weekend, probably by Monday or whatever, right? And go take a look, because I'm pretty sure, because the last time I talked to them, they said the seed didn't break away from, the plant hasn't broken away from the seed yet, the shell of the sunflower, but I'm pretty sure by now it has. I'm assuming it's probably a couple of inches tall. It's probably working on its like third set of leaves, probably at best. You know, I don't. You know, I'm pretty sure it's already germinated if they haven't already. If they're able to germinate, so take a look and see what they're doing, right? Also learning from, hey, that's a different. You know, it's not that far away or whatever, but it's slightly different environment, right? Slightly different conditions in terms of amount of sunlight or amount of watering or the airflow that goes through it and stuff like that, or the the wildlife around it. Not just the bugs, the insects, but the birds too, and all this other stuff, right? See how they're doing. Because I remember last year when I showed the sunflower to them, they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's so huge, that's so tall, It's like, yeah, does it hurt your neck? Yes, it does, because it's so tall, right? I'm just like, and they, and I said to them, I'm like, yeah, I'll give you some seeds next year, and obviously this is for this year, right? And like, I already gave them like 5, right? And I was just like, I just told them what I did, right? I just told them exactly what I did. I didn't sugarcoat it too much, right, or whatever, right? I just said, and this is what I did, right? If you do a very similar thing, you'll probably have very similar results, you know. I think I said something like, yeah, like any plant or whatever, yeah, you gotta baby it in the beginning a little bit more because it's more vulnerable, right? Because it's not as established. For example, the sunflower, right? Because I'll use it as an example because that's what I'm talking about, right? Because what I said to them was, in the beginning, you're gonna baby it or whatever. It's very vulnerable, right? Because if you break the stem with it, I think it doesn't really matter anytime in the growing cycle of it. If you break the stem, that's it. But once it gets to that certain state where the stalk becomes so thick that it becomes kind of more woody, it's like almost like, I wouldn't say bulletproof, but it's very much more resilient, especially to the wind. Because there'll be a certain state where it just becomes more resilient over time, just because it's just getting physically bigger and wider, the stem, for example, right? And basically, instead of watering, let's just say, a little cup of water for a little sapling, a mature plant, I was like, sometimes I would actually put like a whole gallon of water, but I mean, like, so, but that was just like the heat of the summer, right? And when I had excess rainwater for irrigation purposes or gardening purposes, so, and it was supposed to be raining in like supposedly again the next day or the day after, right? I'm like, oh well, I must reallocate this rainwater during the heat, right? And use that resource a little bit better. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit better, but more effectively. So stuff like that. What's the time? Okay. Let's look at the time here. Just have to look at the time here. Yeah, I'll probably go till the 2-hour mark, give or take. Unless I change my mind. Well, give or take. But yeah, I can't wait to see what my friends do and grow. Right? Just to see. And it'd be nice to see it, right? It'd be like, because I've been to places or random places where, these people grew sunflowers. I don't know them or I never met them or whatever because I just see them, right? I'm like, they had like 10, it seems like. And they're all taller than people, right? They're all 5, 6, 7 feet at least, right? I'm just like, I'm hoping to like come into that state where it's just like I'm growing that many of them, right? Because it's nice to see. I think I think it's not just because the yellow brightens up your mood, right? Hence sunflower, right? But that whole kind of that color itself, it just lifts your spirits, right? It's nice to see, right? You can always spot a sunflower like a mile away, as they say, right? So, and besides, sunflowers will help for the pollinators and stuff like that. So, the bees, for example, right? So, so what am I gonna do here is actually, well, actually, I'll just bring the sunflower back up, so I don't need to keep it in here. One of the first ones that I grew, I actually had what's in here still, but that's because the nighttime temperatures are still close to the freezing point. But now, I can leave it outside. It's fine. I don't need to harden it off. I just need to grow one up so I can transplant it, just so it's kind of more well established. Hence, what I said about babying it in the beginning. That's what I'm doing, right? So hopefully, I take the time to do all the effort now, and hopefully later I'm just adding water, right? Basically, that's what I told my friend. I'm like, after this kind of hurdle, so to speak, right, or this one teeter or level, or what's the word I'm looking for, stage or whatever, right? It just basically all I said to them. I'm like, basically after that, once it's like, let's say 3 foot, whatever, right, give or take, more mature, basically you just add water. Mother Nature will take care of the rest, right? And the pollinators will come and all that stuff. If it rains, it rains, right? The sun, if it shines, it shines, right? But basically, you just give it water, right? You know, and if I did trouble. I shouldn't say trouble. I did stake it initially just to help it grow straight, right? So it would actually want to grow relatively straight, because what I've also noticed is that there's a certain point, if you don't do that, you won't be able to do that, because it'll become rigid, the stalk on it, and then you can't manipulate it anymore, right? You can't change it anymore. It'll become rigid, right? But while it's still flexible in that sapling type of state, you can still kind of correct that so it grows tall. It's not a deal breaker if it's like slightly off to the side, right? But I just wanted them to reach higher into the sky, right? So they're rising above the shadows that are casted by like fences, homes, trees, other bushes, and stuff like that, right? Because ideally, the taller the sunflower gets, the more light it'll probably gather, and the more light it gathers, the leaves will probably get bigger, and the bigger the leaves, the more light it's scattering, the more water it's scattering. It's gonna grow much, much bigger, and hopefully it'll translate into like a really huge sunflower at the end, especially this mammoth variety that I have been trying out and stuff like that, which actually I gave to them. So I'm looking forward to it, because it should be nice, right? You walk by your friend's place and it's just like you see nice flowers. It's nice to see. You have company over, right? You know, people can enjoy it or whatever, and just it's nice, right? It's nice. And besides, it beats seeing just dirt or grass, right? I've never seen something else besides that. I've ever seen some nice green plants growing some leaves, maybe some flowers every so often and stuff like that. Obviously, there is some work, right? I guess, gardening is one of those things that there is gonna be some work. Even agriculture itself still has work. You can't, you still have to put some time and effort into it. But in my opinion, it's worth the reward is worth it most of the time. I say most of the time, right? You know. But yeah, basically, like last year is just like after the 3 foot mark, I just added water, and basically I'm just enjoying the plant, enjoying the company, and stuff like that. Just give it water every so often, right, until harvest time. When it was flowering, it was so nice to see, right? It's just like because what's that term? Heliotropic, right? Yeah, where it tracks the sun, right, from east to sunset, right? Once it flowers, then it permanently faces east the whole time. You start noticing that, but it's cool to see, right? Over time, it's just like you come back out from the morning, it's facing east. In the afternoon, it's facing south. In the evening, it's facing west, and next day you come back outside, it's doing that again, right? It's just like it's kind of cool to see that, right? Because not a lot of plants actually will track the sun like that, right? I know some of the leaves and stuff like that on our plants might do it or whatever, but it's cool to see the sunflower do that, right? Another thing is, you know, unfortunately, there's some people that I couldn't give the sunflowers, not because I could physically give it to them, it's because I haven't been able to see them for a while, or they've been busy, so I haven't been able to. They had some interest in growing sunflowers, but it's just like, from what I know, is that I had to give it a lot more time than I thought in comparison to like a tomato plant in terms of how much time it takes, especially to see a harvest and stuff like that, right? So, but maybe next year I can still persuade them, right? Or maybe I'll show them again this year when they come by or whatever. I'll show them or show them pictures on the phone or whatever, right? And they'll be like, maybe I'll convince them, right? I think when you see people able to do something, let's say gardening, for example, or growing something specifically like a sunflower, it makes you think, hey, if XYZ person can grow this, I can grow this too, right? So you can grow this too, right? You know, well, go try it out, right? Go try it out. Learn from the experience, right? You may fail or whatever, but you'll learn more from it. Oh, apparently I have random company here, so I guess I'm gonna cut this stream short, everyone. So I appreciate you all dropping by on this stream here. And remember, everyone, go out and do something, try something out, and create a better future starting today. And like always, as our world changes, we can adapt to. Our skill and knowledge can get better with practice. Regarding practice can help everyone out there, and one can help someone. All right, everyone, take care, everyone. Enjoy the weekend. TGIF. Have a good evening. Take care, and I'll catch you next time. And it's peace out from the one known as CR.